Hello everyone, my name is Darren Hood and I'm going to be delivering a talk today. My topic is Beyond the Interface. Before we get into the subject matter though, just a little bit about me. I currently serve as a manager of user experience for Bosch in their automotive aftermarket division working out of Warren, Michigan. I also serve as an adjunct instructor for Kent State's Master's UX program. Great program for those of you that might be interested in some formal education at the master's level in UX. Now, about the topic. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll be moving a little bit quickly today, and there will be a slide presentation for those of you that want to take a look back at the content that we share. Most of it I will be speaking to, so there's a lot of images, but I think everybody's pretty much used to that type of format. Let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? Just recently, I was surfing the web and I went to a website that I'm sure many who are attending this conference visit on a regular basis, nngroup.com, the online home, if you will, of Don Norman and Jakob Nielsen. And there was something that caught my eye. And it might not be what you think. We go there for the articles. We go there to read about training. We go there so we can go and purchase a report for our teams. But the thing that caught my eye is not up top. Go down to the footer and you'll see a grouping of popular topics, the things that people read the most when they come to the NNG website. And in the midst of all these topics, application design, eye tracking, HCI, information architecture, web usability, there was one that stood out this time more than at others, and maybe because I knew I was preparing for this talk, and it was interaction design. Now, why interaction design? I'm going to sort of explain that as I go through the talk, but one thing I will tell you now is interaction design is essentially the backbone of what we do. Many would say it's information architecture. Many might say it's HCI. And those arguments could be presented, and that's nice and it's good and it helps us to stir up our thinking processes and such. But interaction design, I would argue, is at the center of everything we do because everything we do revolves around an interaction. Those other things are indeed important. They are critical, but interaction design is very important, and you'll see what why I highlight that shortly. Let's get into a little bit of history, shall we, to sort of set the stage for where we're going. When we look at the history of user experience, we go back to the early 1900s. Many of you may be familiar with, we know you're familiar with Henry Ford, but are you familiar with Frederick Winslow Taylor, who worked along with Henry Ford, and through these two gentlemen, Mr. Taylor actually shaped interactions between the workers and their tools. It was a very user-centric, I debated which way I want to say that, user-centric approach to helping optimize productivity. But bottom line, it's an interaction. Toyota, and yes, that is the old Toyota logo there off to the left. In 1948, they actually sought the voice of their internal customer, if you will, getting input from employees that helped them in the way that they were building vehicles in their plants. So they were optimizing human-machine interaction, humans interacting with that technology. Again, all about the interaction. Lastly, in this brief, very, very condensed history lesson, a man by the name of Henry Dreyfuss, one who's considered one of the earliest pioneers of UX. This man focused on how to make things more delightful to use. His work actually laid the foundation for what many of us know today as delight, and trying to infuse delight into what we do in our designs. He actually enhanced the design of the answering machine. He improved the design of the Hoover vacuum cleaner and the Bell telephone. There were many others that he worked with, but again, the focus was on how can I make using this, for example, the vacuum cleaner, more delightful to use, and so this became a key. This book is available available, by the way, on Amazon. Great read. Now, fast forward all the way from that date to 1995, and here's a face. We already mentioned their website, but here's a face many of us are going to be familiar with, and it is that of Donald Norman. He was an electrical engineer back in 95. As the quote here says, he was a cognitive scientist by trade. He was the first person to be referred to as user experience or UX architect. He insisted on being called such, and we can actually think of that as the birth of UX as we know it. A lot of people like to think of it that way, and we won't worry about arguing that point. It works fine. It's nice. He was the granddaddy. He was our father, if you will. A little Darth Vader, bad Darth Vader impression, but you guys get the drift. So UX, in its infantile stages as we know it, mid-90s. Let's mark that. Well, around the same time, along comes the internet. And as the internet comes along, one of the things that happens is that UX for years, when it pre-existed as HMI, HCI, things of that nature, it wasn't focused on digital interfaces, if you will. It was focused on other things, and there weren't a lot of jobs available at that time in comparison to today. But the internet comes along, and people are getting on the web, and the focus is shifting toward websites. Well, starting then in the mid-90s, and then now for the past 20 years, 21 years now or so, the UX world has actually revolved around these digital interfaces for the most part, be it a mobile phone, be it a tablet, be it a computer, whatever that device is. That's where the focus was for the vast majority of the past 2 decades. Well, things are changing. Change is afoot in the world of UX, and digital interfaces are still relevant, of course, because a lot of what we do is in digital spaces on websites and mobile phones, going to apps, things of that nature. But there's a lot of other elements now that are vying for our attention, calling for us to mature. Because if you're going to expand your career, you're going to step out into new places. It's not enough to have website experience. We need to grow. We need to evolve. We need to change. UX is changing. UX professionals need to change. So what I want to do, and pretty simple today. I mean, in 20 minutes, there's not a whole lot you can say, but that's okay. We don't need a lot of time to plant some seeds to help spur somebody on to do some more digging. To look to see what you need to do to expand your skill level, your exposure, and your thoughts about the UX world. I want to just quickly touch on 8 different areas where UX is now becoming commonplace. Usage is increasing. The more and more positions are becoming available. Companies are starting to focus on these things more. So I just want you guys to consider this. Many of you out there may be people who've been working on websites and pretty much nothing but websites. Some of you may already be in some of these areas. Some of you have started to see the evolution into some of these areas. So just want to give you some food for thought and hoping that people will benefit from what I'm going to share today. We'll start off by just talking about miscellaneous hardware. I got to say miscellaneous because it's such a broad arena that where UX can be applied, and it is being applied, but I'm just going to share 3 with you. On the left, we've got the Square terminal, where it's basically a tablet and with the credit card scanner, and people are using this in their businesses to conduct transactions with their customers. And someone will say, well, that's an interface. It's a digital interface. Well, it is, but holistically, it's not. You need to make sure that it's easy for people to use the credit card portion of this device. You need to make sure that everything about this experience is up to par, that is optimal. In the middle, you've got medical devices. I just chose to put the one here. Looks like some type of an ultrasound machine. There's a user experience. There's an interface here. It's not all digital, though. So if you're trapped in the world of the digital experience, and you don't apply what you know to this, there will be an issue. So there needs to be some expansion of our skills and knowledge in this arena. This arena needs UX professionals. It needs well-versed knowledgeable UX professionals. On the far right, we've got automobile diagnostic equipment. And one of the things, without getting into any detail there, one of the things that's critical to know about dealing with hardware is that as opposed to digital interfaces, is when you're in a digital interface, you're dealing with just what's happening on the screen. You're not dealing with ergonomics. When you deal with hardware, you need to be ergonomically focused. You need to understand it's one thing, say, on the Genesis Touch that you see here, it's one thing to deal with the screen, but how does the device feel in your hand? How does it feel when you're operating it? Is it comfortable? Does it turn on and off? So there are a lot of things to consider. Much UX that needs to be applied in this arena. This one this one is a lot of fun for me because it's near and dear to my heart, as probably is for many of us too, where we have these interactions with IVRs, or interactive voice response systems, where you call and there's this voice that tells you to go here, press 1, to go there, press 2, things of that nature. And they are some of the god-awful, the worst experiences in the world. This is becoming an arena where some people have labored in the IVR arena for years, but it hasn't been that popular, and you don't see the jobs come up very much. But as you can see here, Comcast, who many of us might be Comcast customers, and this is an old job posting sometime within the last few months or so, but they're hiring a director, or they actually should have hired the person by now. As you can see, this was December and it closed in February. So hopefully the person is there and going to help all of us out that are Comcast customers to get through that IVR system without pulling our hair out. This is an arena that sorely needs UX attention, and more jobs are going to be opening up in this arena. Again, beyond the interface. Virtual reality, this is a big one. We've heard about Oculus Rift. We've heard about the Galaxy Gear VR. I have one of those. HTC has a device. And virtual reality this is a huge arena for UX that's gaining a lot of traction. For those of you that don't know what VR is, according to howstuffworks.com, VR uses computer technology to create a simulated three-dimensional world that users can manipulate and explore, and it makes it feel like you're actually in that world. When I got my Galaxy Gear VR, there's a Jurassic World experience to make it look like you're interacting with a dinosaur. Very interesting. Brief, but interesting. It can be used to teach. VR can. Computer World has an article that talks about business uses for VR. It says you can use it to preview a new office space, to sit in the cubes, to do all types of things as if you were in the actual building. You can attend conferences through VR. You can conduct or participate in meetings, including conducting interviews, to the point where they have it now where you can actually see someone's expressions during the interview, so that's really important. And some people actually even use, according again to Computer World, they use VR to help manage conflict by bringing two people that have a conflict and having them interact via virtual reality, trying to alleviate some of the intimidation and some of the other elements. So again, VR is really huge, and yes, much in needed of UX guidance in this arena. Its cousin, if you will, augmented reality, which I like to refer to as artificial reality, is about computer-generated environments that enhance our senses, basically, because they can touch everything from what you see, what you feel, what you hear, pretty broad. 3 key uses that I've learned about and have seen. They can transform a vacant space. I saw a presentation about this. It was gorgeous. They transformed a vacant space. A person walked into a vacant area. When augmented reality was applied, the person was able to, they actually overlaid a lot of different elements in that arena that made it seem like you were in a completely different space. So it was really something to behold and to experience. Also, audio. You can put audio or insert audio into augmented reality, so it gives you certain sounds. So it's a very immersive, both AR and VR are both very immersive type of experiences, but again, both in dire need of UX input and support. Wearables is another world, but it's another arena. We know about Fitbit and Jawbone, health-related wearables, but do you know about the Withings blood pressure machine? Phenomenal piece of equipment. I own two of them. I take one with me many times where I go because I want to track it. I don't trust the ones in the doctor's offices. That's me. But I love that machine. You put it on, you start it up. It takes your blood pressure, and this is just a wonderful piece of equipment that really helps you to get your blood pressure in a dependable and a professional manner, and to really just, for me, just monitoring my health. Again, another wearable that has a user experience associated with it. And then lastly, the picture you see here, I have one of these as well. It's called the Garmin Varia Vision. And for those of you that are cyclists, those of you that ride bicycles on a regular basis, this can be used to, via radar, can track vehicles that are behind you, so you can help you avoid that rear collision. It actually, unfortunately, has killed a lot of bicycle riders. You can see the information on your computer in the heads-up display, and there's a user experience associated with this that without the proper research, without getting the voice of the customer, without testing, you're not going to have an optimal experience. And even though the technology is great, it will fail. So UX is direly needed in these cases. Vehicle dashboards. This is another one that is near and dear to the hearts of many and is expanding because, especially as the advent of the self-driving vehicles comes into play, this is really huge. But whether it's a self-driving vehicle or not, the dashboard still has a lot of ergonomic factors where HMI UX professionals specifically are brought in to help optimize the designs to make the cars more comfortable and to make everything easier to use. You got entry that could use UX help, climate control, and as mentioned, driverless cars. So again, all very key. Customer experience. This is one that is usage of this, or the overlap with CX and UX is growing tremendously. And this is a journey map that you see here. And essentially, there are three key things to note about CX. You have touchpoints, where you actually begin to look at what users are doing from that initial point in time that they come into contact with a product, service, or company. And you want to map it like this journey map does, all the way through, identify what the customers need, what the business needs are, as you do with everything else in UX, marry those needs, and then go ahead and optimize your user experiences across the entire life cycle of that customer's joining with you. Lastly, Internet of Things. With the Internet of Things, this is really key because it's really big how they are starting to use data to optimize experiences across the board, again, beyond the interface. For example, Alex and Annie, they're a jewelry store chain, and they've rolled out some Bluetooth sensors that can track traffic numbers in their stores, and then what they do is they push specialized offers to users' phones when they come into the store. They even have heat map, or according to the article, they have some technology that's similar to a heat map. So the company is able to organize and display its products within the store to drive sales. So now you got store layout is on the radar for UX professionals. Ralph Lauren has a shirt called a tech shirt. It can detect heart rate, energy output, and movement intensity to enhance an athlete's performance. And Venomics has deployed a system at Saya Trucking that allows drivers to track time and provide driver coaching to improve shifting. The bottom line there is that it's going to optimize fuel usage, and it can result in up to a 7% savings in reducing emissions into the air. So this is huge. Again, how do all of these come together, folks? Interaction. In all 8 of these cases, when you can identify where the interactions take place and optimize those interactions, it does not have to be a website. It doesn't have to be a mobile app. Just interaction. Via interaction, identifying that interaction, you can get the job done from a UX perspective. What can we do? Expand our skills. We can assess our skills, where we are now, where we need to grow. We can innovate, try to find ways where we can apply our UX skills to other arenas and to bring more value. And then lastly, make sure that you evolve, folks. We want to go beyond the interface. Make sure the UX is extending and evolving beyond the interface, but what about you? So make sure that you're committed to doing so. And if you do that, you're going to be better off in your career, and you're going to make the world of UX a better place for all of us. So that's it, folks. I met my requirement. I finished within 20 minutes. Hey, reach out, connect to me on Twitter. I'd love to touch base with you. Feel free to shoot me any questions. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.